Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the June 15 meeting of the Ann Arbor City Council. If you're able, please rise and join us for a moment of silence, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Would our clerk please call the roll of council?
Councilmember Dish? Here. Councilmember Harrison? Councilmember Watson? Councilmember Malik?
Here.
Councilmember Radina?
Here.
Councilmember Ghazi Edwin? Mayor Taylor?
Here.
Councilmember Iyer?
Here.
Councilmember Ackman?
Here.
Councilmember Briggs? Councilmember Cornell?
Here.
We have a quorum.
We have a motion, please, to approve the agenda. Moved by Councilmember Iyer, seconded by Councilmember Radina. Discussion of the agenda. All in favor? All opposed? The agenda is approved. Are there communications today from our city administrator?
Actually, yes, Mayor. We have been receiving questions regarding the status of ASME negotiations. My office has received several questions, so I'd like to take a minute to address those at this time. Please describe the efforts to schedule meetings with ASME. What role does a third-party ASME business agent play in negotiations and scheduling? The city began preparing for ASME negotiations in July of 2025, and we developed a timeline intended to support the completion of a successor agreement before the prior contract expired. ASME formally requested to open negotiations in September of 2025, and the first bargaining session occurred in October of 2025. The city has consistently made itself available to meet and has worked around the availability of ASME's third-party business agent, who serves as the union's representative in bargaining. The business agent plays a central role in scheduling, presenting proposals, responding to city proposals, and communicating the union's position at the table. Our understanding is that the business agent had other commitments and did not intend to complete the contract before expiration. Even so, the city is continued to make itself available and pursued an interest-based approach throughout the process. Question, please describe how take-home pay is created, specifically the interplay between raises, step increases, progressions, and other economic terms. Employee compensation is not determined only by the annual cost of living adjustment, or COLA. Take-home pay can increase through several different mechanisms. A COLA is an across-the-board wage adjustment. Step increases occur when employees move through the wage schedule based on eligibility. Progressions may also increase pay when employees advance through contractual movement that is built into the wage table. So when someone says employees receive no raise, that may refer to the COLA. It does not necessarily mean that their take-home pay did not increase. For many ASME employees, compensation increased through step movement or other contract-based economic terms, even during a year with a 0% COLA. Question, why did ASME members receive a 0% COLA raise in 2025? In place of a COLA raise, did ASME members receive a compensating lump sum payment in 2025? The 0% COLA was connected to the city's broader compensation approach during the COVID period, when the economic forecasts were uncertain. Every union and non-union group had a year without a cost of living increase. AFSCME negotiated a 5-year contract, and as part of that agreement, selected the final year of the contract as the 0% COLA year. In place of the 0% COLA, AFSCME members received a lump sum payment. Non-union employees did not receive that same lump sum payment. Question: given 2025 step increases and progression, is it true that the majority of AFSCME members received a 2.3% increase in take-home pay in 2025, the year of no raises? A majority of AFSCME employees were eligible for contractual wage movement in 2025, even though there was no COLA. Approximately 84% of AFSCME employees were in positions where they could receive or be eligible to receive a step increase, while approximately 16% were capped and not eligible for additional step movement. For employees moving through the wage table, the increase between steps is generally around 2.3% after the first step. Some employees may receive more, particularly those moving from step 1 to step 2. Some employees may not have progressed if they were capped or did not meet progression requirements. The claim that there were no raises is not fully accurate. There was no COLA, but many employees still had the ability to and did have increased compensation through contractual step movement. Question: did AFSCME members receive take-home pay increasing terms in 2025, such as step increases, progressions, and other economic terms? Yes, for many employees, compensation could increase through means other than a COLA. Those mechanisms include step increases, progression through the wage table, overtime, premium pay, longevity, and other economic provisions available under the contract. This is why it is important to distinguish between no COLA and no increase in take-home pay. Those two are not the same thing. The city did not pause step increases even though the previous contract expired, so the majority of AFSCME members still received an increase to their take-home pay in 2025. Question: AFSCME's economic terms were firm at 12%, 12%, 12% before moving to 12%, 8%, 8%. What would the aggregate additional annual cost be if the city had accepted these terms? AFSCME's proposal of 12%, 12%, 12% would add at least $8.1 million in annual cost to the city based on the economic proposals that could be quantified at the time. That estimate does not include several proposals that could not be reliably costed without additional details and assumptions. The wage proposal itself is only one component of the package. AFSCME's proposal also included additional wage steps and grades, expanded shift premiums, overtime enhancements, longevity increases, holiday pay changes, leave enhancements, workers' compensation changes, sick leave payout changes, retiree health care provisions, and other economic benefits. Some proposals could create significant long-term liabilities that cannot currently be calculated. For example, AFSCME has proposed reinstating retiree health care benefits. Because retiree health care was previously closed, the financial impact of reopening the benefit would depend upon numerous factors that have not been defined, including eligibility requirements, service credit treatment, participation assumptions, and whether service earned during the period after closure would count towards eligibility. Depending on the structure ultimately proposed, reopening retiree health care could create an additional unfunded liability that would require actuarial analysis before a cost estimate could be developed. Accordingly, the $8.1 million annual estimate should be viewed as a minimum estimate and not the full potential of the proposal. Question: if other bargaining units were to receive the ASME demanded economic terms, what would the aggregate additional annual cost be across the organization, including non-union employees? If the ASME wage proposal of 12, 12, and 12 were extended across the city workforce, the estimated wage-only impact would be year 1, approximately $8.7 million, year 2, approximately $9.8 million, year 3, approximately $10.9 million. This represents approximately $29.4 million in additional wage costs over the 3-year period across all city funds. This increase would, in year 3, cause payroll alone to exceed $100 million. These estimates reflect wages only and do not include fringe benefit costs that increase as wages increase, such as retirement contributions, payroll taxes, overtime impacts, and other compensation costs that are tied to base pay. As a result, the total financial impact would be higher than the wage-only estimates shown above. In addition to the financial impact, extending ASME's requested economic terms across all bargaining units and non-union employees would create significant budgetary challenges and could substantially alter the city's existing compensation relationships among employee groups. Question: does the city's latest counteroffer reflect a total take-home pay percentage increase that is greater than or lesser than any prior city ASME contract? Please enumerate if possible. The city's current wage proposal is higher than ASME's recent historical COLA pattern. Historically, ASME COLAs were generally in the 2% range, with the final year of the prior contract at 0% plus a lump sum payment. The city's latest options include either 3% annually or 5%, 3.5%, and 3.5%, along with other economic items depending on the option. Question: can you give us a sense of the financial impact of the union's current proposals and where those costs would be borne within the city budget? Based on the city's current estimate, ASME's 12, 12, and 12 economic proposal would at least add $8.1 million annually to the city's budget. This does not include items the city has not been able to fully calculate. Approximately 41.5% of ASME personnel costs are supported in the general fund. Approximately 36.6% are supported by water, sewer, stormwater, and solid waste funds, which means those costs would ultimately affect utility and consumer rates. Question: what information has the city reviewed regarding compensation for similar positions in other communities, and what have we learned? The city reviewed compensation information from comparable public employers, and based on that analysis and those ASME classifications appear to be at or above market. The city's review does not indicate a broad market compensation deficit requiring the level of increases currently being sought. The city offered during negotiations to look at specific classifications of concern to ASME. However, could not find data to support an across-the-board increase upwards of 8% as a market issue. Question: can you update us on the status of negotiations, including where progress has been made and major issues that remain unresolved? To date, the parties have tentatively agreed to 21 articles. 13 of those tentative agreements were ASME proposals. The major unresolved issues are primarily economic and include compensation, longevity, shift premium, holidays, vacation, sick time, retirement, workers' compensation, and related general provisions. The city has requested mediation on May 28th of 2026, and we remain committed to continuing the bargaining process. As of right now, we are scheduled to go to mediation on June 30th, which was a date given in terms of availability by the business agent. Question: can you describe how negotiations have progressed so far and what efforts have been made to reach agreement? The city has approached negotiations in an interest-based way. That means we have tried to understand the concerns behind proposals, explain the city's interest and constraints, and look for workable solutions. The city team began preparing early, made itself available to meet, and has continued to bargain in good faith. The city's goal has been and is to maintain a respectful tone at the table and reach a successor agreement that is fair to employees, sustainable to the city, and aligned with the city's broader compensation equity work. I will close by indicating those of people that have worked with me during my tenure in Ann Arbor know that normally I do not speak from notes, but giving the importance of being completely accurate and giving the answers to the questions that were posed, felt it was appropriate to actually write out the answers so that there would be no ad lib. That is the end of communications from the city administrator.
We now have the pleasure of an introduction with respect to the Ann Arbor Area Transportation Authority. Mr. Carpenter, you have the con.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of council. It's a pleasure to be back with you again for another brief set of operational updates from the RIDE, the Public Transit Authority for the Ann Arbor Ypsilanti area. My name is Matthew Carpenter. I think the most important thing to provide an update on right now is the relocation of the downtown transit terminal here in Ann Arbor. The Blake Transit Center, a great facility just a few blocks from here, is right adjacent to the old Y lot, 350 South 5th, which is preparing to be rebuilt as affordable housing, which will be a very important improvement for the community. In order to do that, all of 4th Avenue has to be torn up to get at underground utilities. Unfortunately, 4th Avenue is the street we use to get buses into the Blake Transit Center. So we took the difficult decision to close that facility and relocate the terminal functions to curbside boarding and alighting on Washington near 5th. We want to thank the city and the DDA for all their help. This is a difficult move, and they've been very accommodating. They even helped us find some spaces on Washington for our partners, the RTA, the D2A2 service, and the Michigan Flyer services. So thank you there. We also want to thank our customers for their patience during this period. We understand it's not as convenient and doesn't have as many amenities as the Blake Transit Center. But we appreciate their patience with us. The weather's pretty good right now, So I think they're pretty calm. We do have some concerns as time goes on and we get into the heat of the summer. So we will be installing canopied shelters along Washington, I think next month. And again, thank you to the city and the DDA for helping expedite that work. I do have a concern, I'll be frank with you, about the timeline involved. We believe the plan is for 4th Avenue construction to be done about November. And as soon as that's done, we can begin pulling buses back into the Blake. Want to beat the cold weather, to be perfectly honest. But it's construction seasons, right? Rain does what rain does. And if it is much delayed, that could have an effect on our customer experience. I'll be honest with you, I do expect to lose some ridership this year because of this change. This is a fairly significant impact. Nevertheless, pulling together as a community for the greater good, which will help get the old Y lot back to a higher and better use, we think is the right thing to do. So some short-term pain for the long-term gain. We thank the city and the DDA again for your help. And then to end on a more upbeat note, the Commuter Challenge is an annual competition, as you will, among residents and riders to see who can ride the most and eliminate the most carbon emissions from their daily commute. We finished it up this year over 4 weeks. We had over 609 participants, about 11,500 sustainable trips. They prevented about 45 tons of carbon dioxide emissions through their efforts and saved nearly 4,700 gallons of gasoline. So thank you to all the participants there, and we appreciate your efforts. With that, Mr. Mayor, thank you so much for your time this evening. I hope you have a productive meeting.
Thank you very much. We now come to public comment reserve time. Public comment reserve time is an opportunity for members of the public to speak to council and the community about matters of municipal interest. To speak at public comment reserve time, one needs to have signed up in advance by contacting our city clerk. Speakers in all instances will have 3 minutes in which to speak, so please pay close attention to the time. Our clerk or the time clock will notify you when 30 seconds are remaining and when your time has expired. When your time has expired, please conclude your remarks and cede the floor. Our first speaker today is Ken Garber.
Thank you, Mayor Taylor and Council. Ken Garber, 2nd Ward. I'm speaking tonight on item C4, exceptions to height limits. Let me say I have nothing against extra tall buildings, but they should advance our city's goals. Back in February, staff of the Office of Sustainability and Innovations recommended that Planning Commission recommend Appendix CC of the State Energy Code as a condition for granting the 30% additional height for downtown buildings. The purpose of this appendix is to require renewable and energy systems of adequate capacity to achieve net zero carbon. That's language from the code. They can use both on-site and off-site systems. Also known as the Zero Code, it's fundamental to our 820 plan. Strategy 3, Action 2 states, pass the 2021 Building Code and the Zero Code Appendix so that all new developments and major renovations in Ann Arbor can be net zero energy, end quote. The city and our Lansing lobbyists push hard for this. The state eventually approved a limited version. Municipalities can adopt for planned projects and for incentives, like the one on your table tonight. So OSI was absolutely correct, and net zero should be our new sustainability incentive for developers that seek to build higher than code, even if we can't require it in all new construction. But staff later changed its mind. Net zero is now off the table, for now anyway. Building electrification and rooftop solar, or fee in lieu, is where they landed, and Planning Commission agreed. Discussions about how to get buildings closer to net zero are to happen sometime in the future. I find this retreat from the 820 plan deeply demoralizing. Note that other cities like Austin have strict green building performance standards that must be met before exceeding size or height limits. Our revision does require electrification, not just electrification ready. That's better, but we were already getting it. And with such a permissive standards, no sane for-profit developer is going to opt for the affordability height exception option. The small extra cost of, let's say, a VRF air source heat pump system plus rooftop solar, total cost maybe a few $100,000, boosts the value of a building by tens of millions. A no-brainer. At some point, an incentive becomes a giveaway to developers, and this ordinance crosses that line. You don't have to approve it as written. You can opt for OSI's original recommendation, the Zero Code Appendix. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Richard Dacus.
My name's Richard Dacus. I live at 1243 Marlboro in the 4th Ward. I've read with interest your DC4 proposal, and I don't think it's going to work. And I'll tell you why, using my neighborhood as an example. This is a picture of my area in the 4th Ward, taken from your latest publication. And if you look closely here, there's an awful lot of mustard-colored area. That's all transition. And that very little section right here in the center, that's to remain residential. These are the most affordable homes in the entire city. Most of these homes are under 1,000 square foot. And this whole area is literally a bullseye for developers. Unfortunately, right next door, within walking distance, are two of the university's major facilities for sports, making this even more an ideal setting. So the mayor likes to say, when people question him about the loss of, about the problems of building, that don't worry, because you're going to probably end up just with a few more triplexes and duplexes, which we already have in this area. But the real truth is the loss of all these affordable homes to transition. That's again, all this area here. And these are the most affordable homes in the entire city. Once gone, they're gone. In my neighborhood, in the most immediate portion of my neighborhood, there are 24 homes. And there are, among those 24 homes, 7 couples living in those homes, 7 married people. The rest of them are elderly folks like me, mostly women, however, and these are mostly people that work for the university, that are retired, living on fixed incomes, and they're going to feel pressured to move. And that will mean the loss of these homes. This is a very tight-knit area. No one bothered to come down and see us to even see what some of the problems would be. Just to give you an idea how tight-knit, when someone ends up in the hospital and has an operation, we always put together a food train for them when they come back, so that they have food and don't have to cook for themselves. It's just a shame that nobody ever came and talked to us.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Kitty Kahn.
Kitty, go ahead.
Hi, this is Kitty Kahn. I live in the 5th Ward, and I'm calling in about DC4. Resolution directing the city administrator to develop a comprehensive anti-displacement plan for the city of Ann Arbor. This resolution was sponsored by Councilmember Cynthia Harrison. I find it ironic that the city has recently passed a comprehensive land use plan which will result in the gentrification of Ann Arbor and the displacement of residents. And now the city administrator is being directed to hire yet more consultants with our tax money to develop an anti-displacement plan to try to correct the problems that the club will create. Quoting from the resolution, resolved that development of an anti-displacement plan is intended to complement and support implementation of the comprehensive land use plan, ensuring that future growth and reinvestment occur in a manner that promotes long-term community stability, inclusion, and opportunity for existing residents and businesses. You can't make this stuff up. I encourage City Council to vote no on this resolution and instead to go back and reconsider the comprehensive land use plan. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Kathy Boris.
Caller ending in 644, press star 6 to unmute. Kathy, please press star 6 to unmute. Caller ending in 644, please press star 6 to unmute.
Thank you. My name is Kathy Boris. I live at 1726 Charlton in Ward 5. I also want to speak about DC4. What is the purpose of DC4? Should DC4 be interpreted as an admission that City Council's development policies have indeed displaced some of our lower income residents? Or should DC4 be interpreted as an apology for the contempt that our city has shown for those who criticize development policies that would displace residents? Or should DC4 be interpreted as an attempt to stay in power by those who wrote it and will vote to approve it tonight? I am frankly unsure how to interpret DC4, but I do think that it is dishonest for the mayor and city council to recognize the issue of displacement after the comprehensive land use plan has already been approved, and after you dismiss this issue as irrelevant throughout the comprehensive plan process. While you are welcome to pass DC4 unanimously tonight, you all have long public records of ignoring the issue of displacement. In my opinion, some type of protection for the relatively affordable housing that Ann Arbor currently has should have been included in the comprehensive plan. Tonight's DC4 is simply an afterthought. For myself, I say no thank you to DC4. Instead, I ask you to go back and make displacement protection part of the comprehensive plan. It's that important.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Jim Coley.
Hello, my name is Jim Coley. I own Northside Grill and Coley Enterprises. Coley Enterprises owns the Anson Brown building built in 1832, which is the oldest commercial building in the city of Ann Arbor, if not the state of Michigan. I generally cannot support the Southtown development that allows 30% of Airbnbs when the city council's stated goal is to increase renting opportunities in the city, which other developments do. So if all the properties in the city being rezoned, expanded, redeveloped in anticipation of the comprehensive plan, why is the city council forcing me to demolish the Anson Brown building? Here's a bit of history. The Anson Brown building was built in 1832 before let me emphasize, before there was a city of Ann Arbor, Anson Brown, the person, laid out the plats and streets in Lower Town and then built the Anson Brown building. 19 years later, in 1851, the city of Ann Arbor was formed. In 1861, 29 years after the Anson Brown building was built, Lower Town joined the city as the 5th Ward. Several buildings, including the Kellogg Building and other buildings that house Northside Grill and Sick Cycle, were built following the lines that Anson Brown, the person, laid out in 1832. In 2000, it became the caretaker of Anson Brown Building and have spent over $500,000 preserving and updating the building. Recently, it was discovered that the Anson Brown Building and all mentioned buildings along Broadway and Swift are 20 inches on city property. Did these buildings magically move? No, they were standing in the same spot they have stood for over 100 years. What this means is that the exterior walls and foundations of the buildings along Broadway and Swift are on city property. Even the Anson Brown Building was built before there even was a city of Ann Arbor. Think about that. My lawyer and I approached the city about a quieting title. Any normal person can see that the building cannot move, so let's just do a quick claim deed and fix this. I was wrong. The city attorney's office, who works exclusively for the city council, said no, they wanted the 20 inches. Not for any particular reason, just because. Since this involves the walls and foundations, not a bit of lawn, for the city to have its 20 inches free and clear would mean I'd have to level all 4 buildings. So again, why does City Council want me to level the Anson Brown Building, the oldest commercial building in the city of Ann Arbor with a significant part of the city's history? To avoid hiring bulldozers, we sent a page-and-a-half document outlining a compromise offer. It sat in the attorney's office now for over 3 months with no response. And while it sits, well, since the city wants those 20 inches, I can't get a loan, can't get title insurance, can't improve the buildings unless I level the buildings. The 11 of you own this. The buck stops here. Remember, you hired a city administrator, hired a city attorney, and appointed every member of every city boards. So why do you want me to level the Anson Brown buildings? Remember, elections have consequences.
Thank you. Thank you. Our next speaker is John Godfrey.
Good evening, thank you. My name is John Godfrey. I live in the 3rd Ward. How ironic that tonight you will consider this item DC4, a resolution that directs the city administrator to develop a framework for a comprehensive anti-displacement plan. This resolution comes from the same playbook that brought us the comprehensive plan itself, top-down, consultant-reliant, without meaningful participation from the neighborhoods most at risk. For 2 years, people who never imagined attending a council or planning commission meeting came to this podium to explain what was at stake for them and their neighbors. Residents urged you to focus on what really matters, creating more attainably priced housing for low and moderate income residents, planning well-designed housing, not warehouses, for seniors who want to downsize but are prevented from doing so by the tax burden, and protecting moderate income neighborhoods from gentrification and displacement. In frustration, people warned that speculators anticipating the plan's adoption were appearing at the doors of modest neighborhoods with fistfuls of cash, targeting homeowners struggling to hold on. Last October, in a perhaps unusually candid moment, the mayor described the purpose of the comprehensive plan this way, quote, "Some folks ask, where is the affordable housing? Where is the city-built housing? The draft plan envisions market housing. That is its goal. That may have been the vision of this council, but you never asked residents if it was theirs. The fanciful notion that an ever-expanding supply of expensive market-rate housing would somehow trickle down to those further down the housing ladder collided with the lived experience of Ann Arbor residents. And how were residents treated? They were ignored or dismissed. They were treated with condescension and accused of spreading or being victims of disinformation. Now, in the middle of election season, we suddenly hear full-throated declarations of support for affordable housing and concern about displacement. This vague resolution is a hollow and performative gesture. It asks the city administrator, who is busy selling the Klein's lot for $17.5 $13.5 million to bolster city coffers rather than provide affordable housing, to prepare a too late and toothless report on how to prevent the very displacement and gentrification that residents who came to this podium warned would happen. You chose not to listen. So this newfound concern for protecting vulnerable residents from the very market forces unleashed by the plan is not merely hypocrisy. It is a cynical act of political opportunism.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Ralph McKee.
Good evening, Council. My name is Ralph McKee. I live in the 5th Ward. I'm also speaking on DC4. I hope you read Rebecca Aaron's blog post today. It's great. It's on this subject and it's spot on. For me, this is classic. Thousands of folks signed the Pause the Plan petition. Displacement was a big concern. It's obvious why the club will exacerbate it. It puts established business districts and neighborhoods, some modestly priced, into transition zones, allowing 6-story apartment buildings. That obviously incentivizes displacement. I'm really glad that Mr. Dokas today explained exactly what that would mean. That isn't subject to serious dispute. And the best and perhaps only way to mitigate it is to not allow it to happen in the first place. Dozens raised that issue at CPC in here, but were ignored except to recognize the problem and pay it lip service. It is in the plan, but nothing about how to stop it. My recollection is that Councilmember Harrison didn't say anything about that. If you did, please correct me. Now you and others apparently finally realize that during election season that people are upset about displacement caused by the plan you just voted for. But CPC is busy trying to implement that plan ASAP. Yes, the plan you just voted for. The solution? A moratorium on rezoning while studying? No. Slow implementation? Oh, no. Let's have the city administrator do a plan that will come out after the election. Then hire a consultant to fix the problem caused by the other consultant that you hired to do the plan under your direction. By the time that consultant files a report, maybe the rezonings causing displacement will already have happened. This is precisely why 4,000 folks said pause the plan. Yes, the folks that you ignored and dismissed until now. And given the most recent inappropriate rezonings like Southtown and the Dean, none of the pause folks, I bet not one, trust you or CPC, and they shouldn't. Simply put, this looks like one of the most cynical political moves I've ever seen here, and that's saying something. You could prove me wrong. Seriously reconsider what you've done. I'll wait. So will the voters. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Kathy Griswold.
Good evening, Kathy Griswold. The most important thing tonight is something that the viewing audience is not going to see. I've always been a very outspoken, strong supporter of our police force, but to have 2 police officers flanking council in a very intimidating manner is not in line with the culture of Ann Arbor. And I think that we need to carefully look, as a former council member, we need to look at why this is necessary. We are not a police state, and this community should not be intimidated by the police, and the police should not be used to try to intimidate anyone. Okay, now what I want to talk about is CA 22. We have the ability to offer an amendment at the end of the budget cycle, so if we spend more money than was budgeted, we just pass an amendment. Easy peasy. So why don't we have money for pedestrian safety? Why don't we have money for crosswalks with no illumination? I don't know. I heard the mayor speak quite passionately about transportation safety last week at the Arrowwood Forum. So I believe he cares about pedestrian safety. However, there is a complete disconnect between this council and reality. Why? Well, I've got a couple ideas. One is this council is ideology-driven. Number 2, this council is focused on innovation. We want to be the most innovative city. We don't even have to follow any of the engineering standards. And what is the result? A 10-year high crash rate. I had 3 close calls in the last week. One of them was my fault. All of a sudden, someone stepped right out in front of me, and I thought, well, you don't want to know what I thought because it's profanity. And then I realized it was actually a crosswalk, no markings, and it was actually like 30, 40 feet before the light. I don't know why it was designed that way, but it was very innovative, and I'll be on the lookout next time. So at this point, we need to look at whether we need a new process or we need new leadership in this city, because we cannot continue with the high crash rate and the police intimidation that we have tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Jeremy Haley.
Good evening. Jeremy Haley, Ypsi Township. I'm here and we all need more affordable housing. And I'd say, go for it for the Victor's Way and the Ann Arbor Housing Complex Commission thing. I'm here to ask, when a property is taken off and put for affordable housing, where does that money go to? It just doesn't disappear. Where does it get put on mom and pop of the other residents of Ann Arbor? It just doesn't go away. So why you're making more affordable housing over here you're making it more unaffordable for these people over here, because you're taking property off the books here, and that money doesn't go away. It gets put over on these people, making it more unaffordable. And as you do that, you're going more higher density in the town, where you have to hire more police, more fire, more equipment, raising more costs, have to hiring more personnel, raising more costs, but yet taking more property off the books, not putting it back in. So where does that end in the end? Because it goes somewhere, and for me, I see it doesn't end anywhere good. Because if you keep doing this, where does it go? Next one, the bike lanes. When was the last study done where they had, like for cars over the bike lanes, to determine how many people come and go, use bike lanes and stuff like that? Has there been any intense study like that, where they can get some numbers, say, okay, over this period of time, so many people use the bike lanes? Because from what I've seen, people on the bikes and the scooters take advantage of things. I've come to a stop over here, and a woman carrying a couple kids in one of those behinds just ran through a stop sign on her bike lane right in front of me. I've seen multiple people do that without kids too. Up in one of the stops through here, a guy comes up on a scooter between the 2 cars, me and this other guy, gets right in front of me in the left lane where I was making a left. While the light was still red for me and green for them, and nobody was coming, he just took off and made his left. So we have issues here with people on cyclists, not all of them. We do have to address that, because, you say you want pedestrian safety and bicyclist safety, you also got to look at themselves. They may cause it and blame the other person for it. So, thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Jason Davis.
Hello, City Council members. My name is Jason Davis. I live in Ward 3. I am a lifelong Ann Arborite and educator at Washtenaw Community College. And I tell you this because as an educator of this community, I'm a very passionate citizen, and I assume that you all are as well, because I don't think you would be sitting there if you weren't, so thank you. I wrote my comments down so that I don't run over time. I'm an avid bicycle commuter. and supporter of Ann Arbor's A20 initiative. It's a really wonderful initiative. Bicycling is the most energy efficient and environmentally sustainable form of transportation that we've ever invented. So its promotion is essential to achieve our city's goal of carbon neutrality by 2030. Ann Arbor is clearly well ahead of many cities in the surrounding area, so I do commend the work that has already been done. I also know that we can and have to do better. The issue that I'm bringing to you this evening is the maintenance of our existing infrastructure in southeast Ann Arbor, where I live. Bike lanes are unsafe and of little use to all but the most stubborn of bicycle commuters, if they are littered with glass, gravel, and other debris, as they are on the roads surrounding university townhouses where I live. And I am one of those stubborn bicycle commuters. This is not only a safety issue, but it becomes an economic burden for many of my neighbors. I work at Washtenaw, so I can afford special tires and all of that to try to overcome this, but many of my neighbors cannot. If repairs become chronic due to these poor bike lanes, it can become an economic burden for them, both in equipment, but also in lost time and in potentially lost jobs. I'm asking that the bike lanes in southeast Ann Arbor be regularly swept so that we can have safe bike lanes with which to get to work, our grocery stores, our local parks, etc. If this is already being done, then the equipment that we're currently using is inadequate to the task. I know this because I actually spent 3 hours using a push broom to sweep both sides of Platt from Ellsworth to Packard. It was quite a job, and it's not something that I can do every week. I wish I could, but I have a full-time job. I just ask that if we are doing it, that the equipment be looked at. Is the equipment in need of repair? Are we in need of new or additional equipment? We can't expect members of our community to adopt cycling as a viable mode of transportation, which it certainly is, and help us achieve carbon neutrality by 2030 if they are constantly risking flats or potentially accidents in which they can be harmed. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Ian Robinson.
Thank you, Mayor Taylor and council members. My name is Ian Robinson. I'm a resident in Ward 4 of the City of Ann Arbor and the president of the Huron Valley Area Labor Federation, representing 40 local unions and about 22,000 union members. I want to speak to you tonight about the city's negotiations with the 300-plus city employees bargained for by the American Federation of State, County, and Municipal Employees, AFSCME, Local 369. Since 2012, Ann Arbor's revenues have grown by more than 70% after taking account of inflation, according to data that I pulled off the state's website. But in those same years, Local 369's members have seen the raises that they get in terms of contractual raises annually fall to the point where the purchasing power is 15% lower than it was at the outset of this period. Now, the point has been made by the city administrator that there are other sources of income other than those annual increases, and that's important to take into account. I haven't seen numbers on that. I would like to, but I think it's fair to say that there's a lot of turnover, and the turnover has been rising, and that it's become harder to replace the people that are turning over, that are leaving, because they cannot live off of the income that they're getting, or they're being offered better income for the same skills. Either way, whether you think of it as a market competition or in some other way, if you've got a situation where, like last year, $10 million worth of money allocated to hire people to replace staff that had been lost were left over because you could not find people who would take those jobs at the wages being offered, I think you have some evidence of a problem. I think however we do the calculations, and we should do the calculation to figure out how much did overall income on average increase or not increase after inflation for these workers, we're going to find that it hasn't increased enough if these kinds of problems are taking place. So I want to urge this council to consider in allocating, I know that your budget for fiscal year 2027, which begins on July 1, so it's already, we're on the verge of it. I want to encourage you to ensure that there's enough money allocated to the employees that are represented by 369 to make substantial reductions in the losses that they've incurred in terms of real wages, real income, real meaning after inflation. And if the current budget doesn't have that kind of money, please amend the budget to increase the amount available. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Andrew O'Neill.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Council. My name is Andrew O'Neill. I am the president of Carytown Market and Shops, and I'm also on the Carytown District Association and, a little side note, lifelong Ann Arbor resident. The biggest problem or biggest complaint I have at Carytown with our customers is parking. And we've lost a lot of parking in our neighborhood. Some for good reasons, some for maybe not, whichever, we're dealing with it. What's really frustrating to me is I can't go put up signs that say Carytown Market and Shops parking only 24 hours a day, like the city does on Ann Street here, and then Ann between Division and State Street. Today I was out there at about 1:15 today, and the first half of Ann, where there is parking spaces and metered lot or meter spaces, was filled with city vehicles and, sorry, Ann Arbor Police Department, a few Ann Arbor Police vehicles. The next section, there's 14 spots reserved for city vehicles. 4 of those were being used. You go across Division to the other section of Ann, there's about 310 lineal feet of parking spaces, which relates to about 17 parking spaces. There were 2 spots filled there, and one of them I'm pretty sure was not a city vehicle. I couldn't tell on it. It didn't have any markings and didn't have any pass. But what I'm here to say is I wish the city would kind of do what they make us do and deal with parking. We have to deal with the parking structures. We have to deal with the parking spaces. You guys should do the same too. So that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Amir Jade Lenthal-Pay. Amir Jade Lenthal-Pay.
Hello. Hi, my name is Amiri Jade Bay. I was fortunate enough to graduate from the 820 program offered by the City of Ann Arbor's Office of Sustainability and Innovations Department in 2025. 820 is a revolving door program that trains selected residents and students in being able to more confidently share information about city updates and opportunities to our friends and family. 820 is designed to support the idea of equity. Equity is the commitment to justice, impartiality, fairness in procedures, processes, and the distribution of resources. It ensures that all individuals, regardless of sex, marital status, gender expression, or any other characteristics or identities, have an equal opportunity for success. Equity acknowledges that people have different circumstances and seeks to allocate resources in a way that removes barriers and supports each person in reaching their full potential. Equity is important, especially in a fast-paced city such as our city of Ann Arbor. So the Office of Sustainability and Innovations trained us to know what new and existing programs are available to make the lives of Washtenaw County residents easier. In 820 2025, we attended our classes at City Hall each week, and one week our focus was on transportation. This day, a member of the Department of Transportation came to speak with our 820 class. He shared about many things regarding a safer Washtenaw County, including the A2 Fix-It app for Android and Apple cell phones and devices. The A2 Fix-It app was something that most of us had never heard of before. The A2 Fix-It app website was designed to be a simplistic way for county residents and visitors to report things like a malfunctioning stoplight, a bus stop without a trash can or an overflowing trash can, a road that needs urgent repair, or a public hazard. I wasted no time and downloaded the app in 2025, and my neighbors' requests were being honored, repaired, and heard very quickly, which was amazing. Unfortunately, when I try to use the app now, I'm unable to sign into my account to report further issues that I see in my neighborhood. I think as U.S. taxpayers, the A2 Fix-It app will be a great program to invest some of our budget into. This investment should ensure that the app website has the proper technical updates and good communication staff. If in this year, 2026, we invest in the A2 Fix-It application, we will have a brighter and more beautiful Washtenaw County and strengthen our value to our visitors and natives. Thank you for listening.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Paul Seyfried.
Hello, my name is Paul Seyfried, and I am here to talk about the AFSCME contracts. I still don't want to be doing this. I want a fair contract. I have coworkers who are waiting to see whether or not they should retire or can retire this year. I have coworkers who are worried about another year without a cost of living increase. I am worried about what we are losing in the form of benefits. I'm not on the negotiations team, so I don't know what was on the table or what was being offered or what was being threatened. I just know that the contract negotiations started in October of last year, and usually we wouldn't have a contract by now. I went to see my nephew graduate from Skyline a couple of weeks ago. I noticed the absence of teachers at the graduation, and I noticed how muted the applause for the school board was and the superintendents. And I noticed how loud the applause for the empty seats where the teachers would normally observe graduation was. I know that teachers like us are in the middle of a contentious contract negotiation. I imagine many of them had conflicted feelings about missing the graduation of the students that they nurture. I see the parallel. I am not a finance guy, but I know the bucket of cash that pays the teachers is different from the one that pays the city workers. But I can't help but wonder if those two buckets are getting lighter for the same reason. And I wonder why those shrinking pools of money are shrinking as homeowners' share of the tax burden increases, and has been increasing very rapidly recently. I suspect that homeowners, teachers, city workers, and AATA employees can find common cause somewhere. Ann Arbor has been pursuing policies that promote prosperity for quite a while. We have had some very well-paid staff of financial wizards, as I understand, promoting prosperity. And I walk around downtown, and I think it looks like it's working. Ann Arbor's downtown is the envy of Michigan, yet the prosperity hasn't manifested in wages that match inflation for teachers, bus drivers, city workers, and it definitely doesn't match the spiraling cost of housing. The prosperity has not relieved the tax burden on the homeowners, so where are the proceeds of the prosperity going? Mayor Chris put out a poster saying he supports the Ann Arbor Teachers Union. I do too. Thank you. I think we all should. I know that you don't do that budget, but I do think you probably have influence, and I hope you do. And you can use it to get them what they deserve. And when you are done, I know another union that could use your support, not in the form of words, but in the form of actions.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Blaine Coleman.
I've been standing in this city council, the Ann Arbor City Council, for exactly 24 years this month. June 2026, demanding resolutions against military aid to Israel, against investment in the genocidal state of Israel for exactly 24 years. And during those 24 years, somehow the U.S. government has been able to spend trillions and trillions of dollars on genocidal wars against Arabs and Muslims in Palestine, in Iraq, in Lebanon, in Afghanistan, in Syria, all over the place. And yet, in those 24 years, has there ever been a year when Ann Arbor's union workers could afford to live in Ann Arbor? Has there? I mean, all the AFSCME members, all the union workers of Ann Arbor who are getting paid enough to live in Ann Arbor, raise your hand. How many are there? I think there's a problem here, don't you? Again, I should say that before those 24 years, I was among the many who marched and demanded divestment against the against a genocidal apartheid state of South Africa in the 1970s and 1980s. I was among those who marched for divestment resolutions against that genocidal state, and guess what? We won. That genocidal state of South Africa is dead and buried and never coming back. For sure, the same path is being walked by the genocidal state of Israel. Israel has massacred at least 72,000 Palestinians with your tax dollars. At least, probably many, many more. Israel is expanding its genocide all over Lebanon now. It kind of looks like this ceasefire that covers Lebanon isn't going to matter to Israel. It kind of looks like Israel is just going to keep bombing Lebanon with your tax dollars. Approve the resolution against military aid to Israel. This resolution right here, it says we are against military aid to Israel.
Thank you. Our council rules guarantee the first 15 speakers a speaking point. If those speakers are completed prior to the expiration of 45 minutes, then we do go on to the next person. We are now at 44:50. So, Mr. Kasner.
I think this got moved a little bit. Mayor Taylor and City Council, my name is David Kastner. I am the president of AFSCME Local 369. If you look around this room, the people standing behind me are the mechanics, the technicians, the administrative support staff, and the laborers who keep Ann Arbor running. We keep the water flowing, we maintain the infrastructure, we do the heavy lifting that makes the city function. We're here tonight because for the last 20 years, every contract we have signed has left us financially worse off than the one before it. We have watched our purchasing power dwindle. In 2025, when inflation surged and the cost of living in the city skyrocketed, the essential workers in the city received a 0% structural wage increase. Zero. The last time I mentioned that 0%, some of the people on the council pointed out that we agreed to that as a COVID concession in our last contract. You're exactly right. We accepted that terrible deal to help the city during an emergency. But the emergency is over and your finances have been booming for years. Some of you don't like me stating that fact that we haven't seen a raise in 30 months because it makes the administration look bad. The solution is simple. Don't make bad deals. Do not expect the working class to keep subsidizing your surpluses with our paychecks. Now, management claims that the budget's too tight for a fair raise. It's mathematically false. Claim that we're market equitable, also abjectly false. I receive the different job offers people get from my members. I've done the looks into the wages from surrounding municipalities. Not putting that past anyone. You don't have an ability to pay problem. You have a willingness to pay problem. You're choosing to hoard cash for self-serving political projects while handing pay cuts to the workers keeping the city alive. We've heard the administration claim they want to be an employer of choice and not an employer of last resort. What changed? How can you want that but then suddenly say we're equitable across the market? It doesn't make sense. The era of accepting pay cuts is over. This time we will dictate what's fair, not what we're told is fair by an administration that gives other unions 7% and 8% wage increases, but claims there's no money for AFSCME's equitable raise increases. We're united, we're not backing down, and we will not be rushed into a cheap settlement. It's time for this council to direct the administration to drop the fabricated wage caps and negotiate a contract that respects our members and their families. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there communications today from council? Are there communications from council? Councilmember Malik.
Thank you, Mayor. Councilmember Watson and I would like to thank everyone that came out to our Ward 2 Climate Coffee and Conversation to celebrate A20 last week on June 6th. One Ward 2 resident who attended came up to us and voiced concerns about how she will fund needed weatherization upgrades at her home, casually mentioning the inside of her home dropped below 45 degrees at more than 2 times this last winter. She was brought to tears upon hearing about the city's home energy rebate program, which provides targeted funds for the very upgrades she needs and is stackable with state, federal, and utility rebates. Explaining how the city could meaningfully help someone in her situation and seeing her heartfelt response is probably one of my proudest moments as a city council member. And I wanted to thank Dr. Stultz for her leadership on A20 and on these rebates in particular. Given this, I also wanted to remind folks and highlight our home energy rebate program. If you are an Ann Arbor resident, you are very likely eligible for rebates to upgrade insulation in your home, install new appliances, upgrade to a heat pump, update your yard care appliances, and more. Over $2 million of climate millage funds are set aside for this annually, and it resets every year on June 1st. If this sounds interesting to you, you can learn more by searching A20 rebates online, sending an email to sustainability@a2gov.org, or reaching out to me directly. Thanks.
Further communication from council. Councilmember Ackman.
Wanted to speak to 2 things that were raised. One, to the commenter that asked about counts of bikes. You can find that dashboard at the DDA. Does monthly, I think even daily, bike counts, and that can be accessed pretty easily so that you can see the numbers that are using the bike paths. I also wanted to respond to the comment about the presence of police in chambers and maybe where they are, and certainly do not want our community feeling intimidated by the police. Also want people to be aware that Ann Arbor is not immune to the kind of political violence that is being threatened on public officials constantly. And we get some very scary threats in our inboxes. This is not people disagreeing with us. This is people that are threatening lives and bodily harm, and it's a scary position to be in, and I appreciate the city administrator and the police trying to make sure that everybody that attends can do so safely. Thank you.
Further communication from council. I'd like to recommend the following nominations for your consideration: to the Building Board of Appeals, Ann Huang; to the Commission on Disability Issues, Ben Bond; and to the Elizabeth Dean Fund Committee, Ellen Ward. I'd also like to recommend confirmation of the following appointment that was presented to City Council on June 1, 2026 to the Ann Arbor Area Transportation Board. Travis Gahn, you may have a motion, please. Moved by Councilmember Radina, seconded by Councilmember Malik. Discussion. All in favor? All opposed? It is approved. We have before us the consent agenda. May I have a motion, please, to approve the consent agenda? Moved by Councilmember Ghazi Edwin, seconded by Councilmember Malik. Discussion of the consent agenda. Councilmember Cornell.
I'd like to pull CA 11, please.
CA 11. Further, Councilmember Harrison.
I'd like to pull CA 26.
CA 26. Further discussion of the consent agenda. I'm sorry, Councilmember Malik.
I would like to pull CA 25 for further discussion.
CA 25.
And then I would also like to add, as the council member liaison on the Greenbelt Advisory Commission, I would like to also highlight a few items tonight. In particular, CA 8. This is a resolution approving the city's participation in applying for a state grant. Michigan's non-point source program grant assists local partners, such as Ann Arbor, in restoring water bodies impaired by polluted runoff, as well as protecting high-quality water from pollution impacts in the first place. This is a new-to-us grant, given that we now have our new Blue Belt program. The Blue Belt, of course, allows our normal Greenbelt land preservation program to work outside of the standard Greenbelt district and expand the city's opportunities for source water protection projects within the Huron River watershed upstream of the city. Should we be awarded the grant we are applying for, we will be able to use it to preserve 2 future parcels of land in the Blue Belt district. This resolution tonight will authorize the city to apply for the grant, worth an estimated $350,000. Should we be awarded the grant, the city will provide a match. For every $1 of the voter-approved Greenbelt millage, we will leverage an additional $2 and possibly more should future projects also leverage county or township land preservation dollars. This continues the exciting trend of the city stretching our Greenbelt millage dollars, where on average the city kicks in 1/3 or less of easement costs. Along the same lines, I would also like to highlight CA6, a Greenbelt conservation easement purchase, and CA7, the city's second overall Blue Belt conservation easement. This Blue Belt easement purchase is for approximately 43 acres of wetlands, upland mixed forest, lake bed, and agriculture on Riker Road in Dexter Township. One participant at the Greenbelt Advisory Committee referred to it as Ag in the front, Eco Party in the back. That sounds good to me, so count me in. Thank you.
I neglected at the beginning of this consent agenda to note that there was a question running to staff with respect to CA 22. Ms. Prashan, if you're in the house or in the ether.
Good evening. We actually have Kim Busselmeyer, our budget manager, also joining this evening, and she's prepared to answer the question for us.
Good evening. The question was posed to staff asking to explain what is included in the $890,000 budget amendment for the climate action millage, and was also commented that a few meetings ago there were unspent fiscal year 26 rebate funds available to support the $500,000 electric vehicle rebate program. And asking if we could use some of this money towards that EV rebate program. The $500,000 that was put towards the EV rebate program was a reallocation of funds that were already budgeted for rebates for things like heat pumps, the insulation, e-bikes, lawnmowers, leaf blowers, and energy efficient appliances for homes. The funds allocated for these rebates have seen a lower than expected request for the actual rebates, and so staff was seeking to reallocate the unused funds to the electric vehicle rebate program to incentivize citizens to make that switch to an electric vehicle. We are requesting the $890,000 to be appropriated to the climate action millage due to a reimbursement that the fund actually received for an EV refuse truck that was purchased using climate action millage dollars, and a small portion of additional property tax revenue that was received during the current fiscal year above budget. There are no specific expenditures planned at this time for these dollars, but it is in the city's best interest to appropriate the funding based on the past experience with this fund so that it is available should there be any unforeseen expenses here in the climate action millage as we approach the end of the fiscal year.
Thank you. Further discussion of the consent agenda? Councilmember Briggs. Further discussion of the consent agenda? All in favor of the consent agenda with the exception of CA 7, 26, 25, and 22? 11, my apologies. Thank you, good Lord. CA 11, 26, 25, and 22, the consent agenda with the exception of those items. All in favor? All opposed? The consent agenda with the exception of CA 11, 26, 25, and 22 is approved with 10 council members present, all voting the affirmative, thus satisfying the 8-vote requirement. With respect to CA 6, CA 7, CA 16, CA 23, and that is all. CA 11, resolution to approve the 11th amended and restated general services agreement between Recycle Ann Arbor and the City of Ann Arbor for multifamily and commercial recycling collection services for an extension of 2 years with annual increases for inflation every July 1st, limited to the percentage change in the consumer price index for the previous contract year or 6%, whichever is less. Moved by Councilmember Cornell, seconded by Councilmember Malik. Discussion, please, of CA 7. Councilmember Cornell.
I sit on the board of the Ecology Center, which has a fiduciary oversight role for Recycle Ann Arbor, so I need to recuse myself from this vote.
Is there a motion, please? Moved by Councilmember Briggs, Iyer, seconded by Councilmember Briggs. Discussion? All in favor? All opposed? The recusal is in effect. Further discussion of CA 11. All in favor? All opposed? It's approved. Nice try. Have to walk a little faster next time for some candy.
That's exactly what I was going for, too.
CA 25, resolution to approve a grant agreement to the Ann Arbor Housing Commission and the Ann Arbor Housing Development Corporation. Approve the purchase agreement. Pardon me. I was doing it in order, but thank you. Resolution to approve a grant agreement with the Ann Arbor Housing Commission and Ann Arbor Housing Development Corporation. Approve the purchase of property at 800 Victor's Way for affordable housing and appropriate $1,200,000. Moved by, was that Malik? It was. Councilmember Malik, seconded by Councilmember Adina. Discussion, please, of CA 25. Councilmember Malik.
Thank you, Mayor. I believe Ms. Hall is online, and I was wondering if she would be so kind as to explain a bit more on this item.
Sorry. Good evening, Mayor and City Council. I am trying to get my video on. Sorry about that.
All good. Your audio is working.
Up and down. All right, let's go with that then.
I'm really excited actually about this project. It is 114 apartments. It was originally built as a hotel, and so it is sort of tucked away in a more commercial area of the city on the sort of southeast side of the city. It's in the 4th Ward, which is an area that we don't have a lot of affordable housing currently. So I'm excited to be able to add some more affordable housing to that area of the city. The total cost of the acquisition plus all the soft costs and a little bit of renovation is a bit under $20 million, which compared to the way construction has been going is a favorable cost per unit compared to what it's been costing us on the new construction side. The disadvantage of doing a acquisition is we are not adding housing to the marketplace, and so this is a tool that we would use judiciously in that we don't want to take existing properties out of the marketplace very often, but we want to mix it in with new construction. What makes this project unique is that we're actually using a brand new tool for Michigan. It's one that's been used in many other states. It just hasn't been used in Michigan, which is a 501c3 bonding. I'm always trying to figure out how to leverage our local resources, our local millage, our affordable housing fund with outside funding sources. And so this is a way to have a low-cost loan, a low-interest rate loan to acquire the property. And the way it works is the Housing Commission is actually the bond issuer rather than the City of Ann Arbor. And then the Housing Commission will provide the funding from the bond to our 501c3, and the 501c3 will be the owner and manager of the property. We are partnered with sequel companies, and they are helping us get through the very complicated process of doing the bond financing. We're working with PFM financial advisors as well as our own bond counsel, and it's a much smaller number of sources in our capital stack. It includes the bond financing itself. It includes the $1.2 million that we are requesting tonight from the Affordable Housing Fund. That is not the millage. That's the fund that has contributions to it through primarily through private developers. And then we are asking our partners at the Ann Arbor Community Foundation for a $2 million loan that they are under consideration right now. And then if there's additional funds that we need to close the gap, we will be using our local affordable housing millage. Sequel will be putting funding in as well as part of the financing. The project is moving fairly quickly because it is an acquisition of a privately held and owned building. And we will actually need to come back to City Council at the July 6th and the July 20th council meetings to talk about the bond hearing that we will need to hold. It's called a TEFRA hearing that needs to be held in a public space. And we can speak more to that financing at that time. But I will say right now that the 501c3 bond financing is used in many other states as a tool, not just by housing authorities, but by other nonprofits. And it is a credit enhanced by Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, and that enables the Housing Commission to be the bond seller without being credit rated like the City of Ann Arbor is. It does not require the city to pledge its full faith and credit, and so the city is not on the hook to pay back the bond. It's actually paid back with revenue generated from the rent. As part of the requirement under this type of bond financing by the IRS, we do have to commit to at least 40% of the apartments being affordable to 60% of area median income, or 20% affordable to 50% of area median income, which is similar to low-income housing tax credits. And because of the low cost of the financing, we are actually able to ensure that all of the units will be affordable at 80% of area median income or less. So that is also very exciting. For people who currently live at this building, we do not know what the incomes are. That is something that we are currently doing as part of our due diligence, is to get that information from the current owners. But if anybody is living there, has a current lease with the owners at the time that we make the acquisition, if they are over those incomes, then they will be grandfathered in until they decide to leave, and then we would move in somebody who's low income qualified at the time that unit becomes vacant. Yeah, it's very exciting to be able to have a new tool to use. So hopefully this will not be the last project, but again, want to use it judiciously because we don't want to take a lot of properties out of the marketplace.
Wonderful, thank you.
Further discussion? I'd just like to express gratitude to all the good people at the Housing Commission, and of course, Director Hall for this innovative work. As folks know, that the City of Ann Arbor, the nation indeed itself, has a housing crisis. The City of Ann Arbor is doing something about it. One of the things we're doing is we are expanding the affordable housing owned by the city, provided for residents that are income qualified. This is something we're doing through millage dollars, of course. We're also doing it in this context here. And while these are not new units added to the housing market, which is our goal and our actions. For example, at the old Willout, where we're adding 330 units of new permanent affordable housing. Here, we are ensuring that going forward that these units will be affordable, and that is a great and good thing for the residents and for our housing affordability crisis. And just want to thank staff for the good work to get it done. Further discussion? All in favor? All opposed? It's approved with 10 council members present, all voting the affirmative, thus satisfying the 8-vote requirement. CA 26, resolution to approve a professional services agreement with Obsidian Research Insights, LLC, for consultative services for harms report, not to exceed $200,000. Moved by Councilmember Harrison, seconded by Councilmember Ghazi Edwin. Discussion, please, of CA 26. Councilmember Harrison.
Yes, so we've got a staff intro from our city administrator. Just have a couple questions about the process. So, do you want me to ask the question first, or you go ahead. Go.
Thank you, Councilmember. So the questions were submitted in writing, and it's asking for me to address the process that we use, basically how we got to a point of hiring a consultant to do the harms report. And then a second question is asking that we speak to why the decision was made to hire a consultant to do this kind of work. So I want to start with the second question first. And I'll preface it by saying that we're talking about something that is focused on institutional impact, not personal. We're not talking about individual people and what they did or didn't do. This is asking that we take an institutional look at laws, practices, policies, and impacts in the area of housing and policing as it relates to Black residents of Ann Arbor, Michigan. And if we want to have credibility around the findings and we want to have credibility around the outcome, in the administration's view, it would be inappropriate to ask the government to make those determinations itself. So we sought to go to the marketplace to find people who are skilled and experienced in conducting the kind of analysis that is necessary to look at housing and policing only, not other areas, not education. We're limiting it to those two areas. And through an RFP process where we looked at a number of firms, and in making the judgment as to which firm to select, we also had participation from a member of the community in looking at the firms. We chose Obsidian. Obsidian is a DC-based firm. Its principals, Dr. Rayshawn Ray and Dr. Rebecca Shankman, will be the primary folks conducting the work. And just to give a little bit of background about them, Dr. Ray is a professor of sociology at the University of Maryland. He is a senior fellow at the Brookings Institution. He is frequently asked to comment on NPR, CNN, CBS, written in the Washington Post and New York Times, involved directly in the legislative work in Maryland, in California, and in Evanston. Has worked on the National African American Reparations Commission and has done extensive research in policing. Worked on the Maryland Police Accountability Act in 2021. Dr. Shankman, who we can forgive that she is an Ohio State graduate, but highly skilled and would be the project manager on the project, also a graduate of the University of Maryland. So what we're trying to do is look at some specific areas. First, a legal and legislative review. What are past laws, practices, policies that were in effect in Ann Arbor, Michigan that could have impacted either housing or policing? They would also conduct a landscape analysis, looking at existing harm landscapes. They want to do a comparison to communities in the region that would include Detroit, Chicago, and Indianapolis. They propose to do a resident impact analysis where they actually want to speak with current and former residents of Ann Arbor who may have been impacted by policies and procedures and laws and practices that were in place around housing and policing. They would conduct a historical, economic, and judicial impact of what they find, and then they would do a what-if forecasting. What if these policies were not in place? What would the plight of Black residents have been? So this is the kind of work that the Obsidian team would be doing. They are partnering with an organization called Blue Marble Analytics to conduct the work. And then the outcome of the work would be a context report. It would be a community impact report. And they are proposing to do an interactive impact dashboard that would allow residents to interface with the information that is found to determine how things might be better. The decisions that would still be in front of council at the conclusion of this research is, now that we have findings and now that we have some outcomes, what, if anything, are we going to do about it? So they're not going to say what we ought to do. They're going to simply give us the information. So we're very high on Obsidian being available to work with us. This project will actually be led by myself and Deputy City Administrator Walton. We will meet with the consulting firm every month. We have asked people inside and outside the government to identify current and former Black residents of Ann Arbor that they can engage with to do the work. And so we bring this contract before you this evening for your consideration.
Councilor Harrison, you still have the floor.
Thank you. So first, I want to start by saying happy Juneteenth this Friday, June 19th. This is the meeting closest to that date, so it's really appropriate that this is on the agenda this evening. When Council established the Municipal Reparations Fund, we acknowledged that government actions and government inaction contributed to harms experienced by Black residents in Ann Arbor. We did not arrive at that conclusion in a vacuum. Ann Arbor's history includes racially restrictive housing covenants, housing segregation, the discriminatory DNA dragnet, and other policies and practices that disproportionately burdened Black residents. The purpose of this harm study is to deepen that conversation. This study will help us move beyond anecdotes and assumptions. It will create a rigorous historical record of how municipal policies in housing and policing affected Black residents, what the long-term consequences were, and what lessons we should carry forward. Good policy begins with facts. Good accountability begins with understanding. And meaningful repair requires that we first tell the truth about what happened. I am particularly excited that the work will examine both housing and policing because these are two areas where government decisions can shape opportunity, wealth, safety, trust, and quality of life across generations. Ann Arbor often sees itself as a progressive community, and I believe this study reflects the best of that tradition. Examining our history honestly is an act of civic responsibility. Communities that are confident in their values do not shy away from difficult truths. They confront them, learn from them, and use that knowledge to build a more equitable future. This study is not about telling a complete history that documents harms, acknowledges progress, and helps us understand the distance between the two. No study can undo past harms, but documenting them matters. It honors the experience of those who lived through them, provides a foundation for future policy discussions, and demonstrates our commitment to confronting our history honestly. For me, this is also a moment of gratitude. I think about the residents, advocates, civil rights leaders, historians, and community members who pushed this city to be better, often long before their efforts were recognized or celebrated. Their work helped expose inequities, challenge discrimination, and create many of the protections we take for granted today. I am grateful to everyone whose work helped to bring us to this point, and I look forward to seeing the results of this important effort. Thank you.
Further discussion? Councilmember Casiano.
Just for my part, I want to say thank you to Councilmember Cynthia Harrison and Councilmember Chris Watson for bringing this forward, and for the rest of the council colleagues' support on this. I think that this is something that communities that have shown to be more equitable, they do, and it is more beneficial for everyone to be able to have this truth and reconciliation process. So I support it, and thank you, Councilmember Harrison, for bringing it forward.
Further discussion? I too would like to thank Councilmembers Harrison and Watson for initiating this project, and others at the table as well, as I recollect. And I'm grateful for staff to bring us this group of folks who will help us learn about ourselves. This is it is neat that we talk about this in connection with Juneteenth. Juneteenth is, one of perhaps the truest of all American holidays. It is a holiday that articulates and engages our true history, a history of white supremacy, which of course is at our founding. It doesn't sugarcoat the horrors of that, and it also expresses and engages the joy of freedom and the joy of a better day, the promise of a better day. This resolution, the work that will be accomplished, will be part of our own truth-telling, an opportunity for us to articulate as a municipal organization and a community about the harms that the people's government inflicted, about the consequences of that on its people. And it's my hope and belief that we'll use that as an opportunity to see where we can improve, how we can improve, and how we can make everybody's lives better. Further discussion? All in favor? All opposed? It is approved. CA 22, resolution to amend Ann Arbor City budget for fiscal year 2026, moved by Councilmember Briggs, seconded by Councilmember Cornell. Discussion, please, of CA 22. Councilmember Briggs.
Yeah, I just wanted a bit of clarity around one of the items. Apologies for not submitting the question sooner. But if you could provide a little bit more clarity around the non-departmental transfer to the court facilities to avoid fund deficit, severances, and legal settlement for the $1+ million. I sent it. I think staff has received it via email and probably has had a few minutes to reflect on it.
Excellent.
Okay. With regard to the severances that are included in this amendment, that portion is just over $500,000. That relates to our annual request to appropriate for retirement severances. We do this every year as part of this resolution. We hold the funding for that in the assigned fund balance for the general fund. And once we know how much was paid out for the fiscal year, we do ask for that portion as part of this resolution because we are unsure of exactly how many people and the dollars that it will cost us at the time of retirement in each fiscal year. With regard to the legal settlement, we are in the process of settling a longstanding tax appeal that's taken several years to get to settlement on. We do anticipate that it's going to be settled before June 30th, and so we are asking for those funds to be made available in the event that it does indeed get settled before June 30th so that we are able to make the settlement payment. The general fund portion for that is expected to be around $385,000. And with regard to the court facilities transfer, we do have a fund that we budget to receive revenue into to make a portion of a debt payment with regard to the Justice Center building. The revenue that comes into that fund is from tickets issued by the Ann Arbor Police Department. It is $10 per ticket. However, they have had a shortfall in that fund for quite a few years now, just due to as policing has changed and ticket writing levels have decreased. And so we typically have to ask for some money from the general fund to cover that shortfall to make sure that we are able to cover the debt payment.
Great. Thanks so much. Appreciate it.
Further discussion? All in favor? All opposed? It's approved with 10 council members present, thus satisfying the 8-vote requirement. We now come to a set of public hearings. Public hearings are opportunities for members of the public to speak to council and the community about the specific subject matter of the public hearing. To speak at a public hearing, you need not have signed up in advance, but your speech must relate to the specific subject matter of the public hearing. That is to say, the specific item on the agenda to which the public hearing relates. Speakers in all instances will have 3 minutes in which to speak, so please pay close attention to the time. Our clerk or the time clock will notify you when 30 seconds are remaining and when your time has expired. When your time has expired, please conclude your remarks and cede the floor. Public hearing number 1, an ordinance to amend sections 2.1 and 2.2 of Chapter 26, Solid Waste Management of Title II of the Code of the City of Ann Arbor. Is there anyone in-house who would like to speak at this public hearing? Is there anyone online who would like to speak at this public hearing?
one with their hand raised, Mayor.
Seeing no one, this public hearing is closed. Public hearing number 2, resolution to approve the 3400 Dexter Road annexation, 4.308 acres, 3400 Dexter Road. Is there anyone in-house who would like to speak at this public hearing? Is there anyone online who would like to speak at this public hearing?
No one with their hand raised, Mayor.
Seeing no one, this public hearing is closed. Public hearing number 3, a resolution to vacate John Street right-of-way, approve release of a utility easement, and approve a utilities transfer agreement with the Board of Regents of the University of Michigan. Is there anyone in-house who would like to speak at this public hearing?
Good evening, Mayor, City Council. Mike Rain, Office of Government Relations at U of M. If there's any questions, I'll be glad to be able to try and talk and then answer the questions, anything that comes up at the appropriate time. Thanks.
Thank you. Is there anyone else in-house who would like to speak at this public hearing? Is there anyone online who would like to speak at this public hearing?
No one with their hand raised, Mayor.
Seeing no one, this public hearing is closed. We have before us the regular meeting minutes of June 1, 2026. May I have a motion, please, to approve these minutes? Moved by Councilmember Cornell, second by Councilmember Iyer. Discussion of the minutes. All in favor? All opposed? The minutes are approved. B1, an ordinance to amend sections 2.1 and 2.2 of Chapter 26, Solid Waste Management of Title II of the Code of the City of Ann Arbor. Moved by Councilmember Iyer. Radina, seconded by Councilmember Ghazi Edwin. Discussion, please, of B1. All in favor? All opposed? It is approved. C1, an ordinance to amend Chapter 55, zoning, rezoning of 1.2 acres from M1 Limited Industrial District to C2B Business Service District, 3785 Varsity Drive. Moved by Councilmember Dish, seconded by Councilmember Radina. Discussion, please, of C1. Councilmember Dish.
I know there are going to be questions on this one, so I was trying to decide, should I start or should those questions start? But I'll start. So council is asked to approve a petition to rezone a vacant 1.26 acre parcel from M1 to CB2 in order to build 50 one-bedroom apartment units across 2 buildings. It will be a 55-foot tall building and have 4 stories. The Planning Commission always goes through a list of criteria for a rezoning. I'm going to review those. And this one is a little bit of an unusual case, which is, I think, going to come out in our discussion. So is this rezoning necessary? Yes. This rezoning is necessary because C2B is a mixed-use zoning district that permits residential uses, and the existing district, M1, does not. So we need to do this rezoning for the project to happen. How will it affect the existing neighborhood? Now, this is where this project is unusual, because usually we worry about the effect of the new thing on the old things. But in this case, we actually worry about the effect of the existing things on this new thing. And that is because the surrounding uses include Zingerman's Mail Order, 3 fitness facilities, a biotech lab, a food delivery facility, Mitsubishi Research and Development Office, a hardware store, which is actually useful, and an unknown, this is literally in the staff report, an unknown office and storage warehouse building, which makes it sound mysterious. And there's a few more things, including a cannabis retailer. So as the staff report gently suggests on this one, there's a shift in the way we need to look at this, because housing would now be permitted where there is not a complete sidewalk network, where neighbors with large surface parking lots receive deliveries from semi-trucks, and the same scale of neighborhood businesses and amenities that are imagined in residential districts are not present here. However, staff also acknowledges the proximity of this location to jobs and a bus line, and that it has the potential to be connected to adjacent residential development. So Planning Commission spent some time thinking not just about how the addition of housing here would affect what exists, but how whether what exists is an appropriate place to add housing. And we considered sidewalk connectivity extensively. The staff report and our discussion acknowledges that connectivity will need improvement. It is important to underscore that transportation has flagged that it is expected that the petitioner will foot the cost for sidewalks and to grant an easement for cross-site connectivity. And the final bullet point in the staff memo notes that these provisions are not currently in the area plan, but they will need to be in the site plan, which will need to be approved. And so I think there's envisioned remedying for some of the things. There are some more advantages, though, if I have 1 or 2 seconds. This site is proximate to Bryant-Pattengill and will bring new students to it, which is good. It's serviced by a stop for a triple ATA bus, Route 6A. And some planning commissioners expressed delight at the number of unusual things that they could walk to were they to live in one of these homes. And so there is a glass half full, glass half empty, to such a location. So that's where we were, and that's why we approved it as CPC.
Further discussion? Councilmember Ackman.
This one was kind of challenging for me for a couple different reasons. One, the surrounding industrial uses. In my ward, and I guess this would be in my ward too. Is this in Ward 4? Anyway, in my ward, is Industrial Road, and we get quite a few nuisance complaints by people who even live in the neighborhood that's behind the Comcast building, I believe is the major one. And so I have concerns about how we manage basically nuisance activity, which I think we set as a goal in the new transition district that still has to be officially written and scoped out in detail. And so I understand that we're using this as an interim plan, and I don't want to suggest that we should stop developing housing. And so I understand that this is kind of an imperfect application, but I guess the other concern that I have is that the current C2B district allows for non-resident occupied short-term rentals. And so as I think about this rezoning, even though I know that the project that is being contemplated is providing rental housing, as we know that can change over time. And if I'm understanding this correctly, and perhaps staff could answer this for me, would it be possible for this to be a 100% short-term rental building if we approve the zoning? And the reason why I ask is because I know that also in the comp plan, we talk about the transition district as needing to contemplate intentionally mixing housing, jobs, commercial uses while managing nuisance concerns, supporting walkability, which I'm happy to hear about the sidewalk consideration, and then considering restrictions on short-term rentals, which I believe came up in a couple meetings ago. So my question is my assumption right that this could indeed, if we approved this rezoning, be 100% short-term rentals?
I'm sorry? Mr. Mahoney, the listed staff member is apparently not online. Is there anyone else available to answer the question? Ms. DeLeo is on the way.
The cavalry.
Ms. DeLeo.
Mr. Mayor and Council, please allow me to fill in for my colleague, Michelle Bennett. The answer is yes. There are no percentage restrictions to short-term rentals in the C2B district. It could also be a number of other permitted uses of the C2B district, including hotel and so forth, as currently provided in the UDC.
Thank you.
Further discussion, Councilmember Briggs.
Yeah, and I've also am struggling with this. Obviously, we know what where our community is headed with this in terms of what is where we're at in the comprehensive land use plan, but we haven't. This is one of the more difficult areas in terms of transitioning over when we're talking about adding housing into an existing light industrial zoned area, and so. Doing that in advance of the entire area being rezoned also means that those other existing neighboring M1 businesses, that any of those currently permitted M1 uses, any of those areas could transition over into something that we might, when reading from the list, we might say, oh, Zingerman's mail order, that sounds great, but maybe we wouldn't with all of the other uses that are permitted in that M1 area. And so, that's one of the benefits of kind of considering this area holistically and thinking about the zoning and making sure that all of those permitted uses that we are considering adjacent to residential uses make sense. So, in addition to the ones that Councilmember Ackman mentioned, those are the pieces that I'm going to be wrestling with in advance of second reading about whether or not I feel comfortable supporting this.
Further discussion? Councilmember Tisch.
I want to ask a question of Ms. DeLeo. I do not remember planning. Planning Commission sometimes does talk about whether STRs or other permitted uses are appropriate for a project. I don't remember that coming up with this one. Would it be at all appropriate for council to ask for the possibility of
and hypersonic missiles mid-flight so they can take off?
Sorry. Would it be appropriate for council to ask the planning staff to explore a condition on this zoning? If the developer would be willing to offer a condition that would limit the percentage of STR or relinquish a permitted use if there's a other particular permitted use that the council is concerned about.
In response to would it be appropriate to ask for a condition, it would not be. The enabling legislation is very clear that the property owner must voluntarily offer conditions. If they do voluntarily offer them, for whatever reason they are so moved, maybe from watching the discussion, the city council, any body is enabled to accept them, and there's no time limit on that. So if they were to come with conditions in the future for this project, the city council can accept them. I also agree, I do not remember the Planning Commission speaking much or just debating much about the possibility of short-term rentals here. This is one of the main differences between selecting and requesting a commercial district such as C2B as opposed to a residential district. The C2B is a commercial district, and if rezoned to C2B, the property owner is actually not obligated to construct residential at all. They would be permitted to construct anything that is in keeping with the C2B district. And we do not have short-term rental restrictions in the C2B district because it is a commercial district. There is not much functional difference between a hotel and a building with short-term rentals in it. If this was a residential zoning district petition, it would be an entirely different story.
I think that's your time. I'll observe for my part. What I hear is that the proposed project, the contemplated project, is indeed residential, and so I'm going to assume that the petitioner's goal is indeed to create long-term housing on the site. I'll also observe that there seems to be at the table at least a potential interest in long-term housing, but there does not seem to be any interest in short-term rental or a hazard hotel, or honestly any other usage with material usage outside of long-term rental. And so perhaps if indeed this passes between first reading and second reading, the spirit will move observers to note council's views on the matter, and perhaps conversations will ensue. Councilmember Rackman.
To be clear, I do think that there's a fundamental difference between building a hotel and enabling a building that could be either half or a quarter or all short-term rental. One, don't collect the same kind of taxes, don't have the same kind of control. Two, I think it sets up weird assumptions about moving into a community that then has people who are kind of coming in and out and not treating the place the same as they would if they were permanent residents of the place. So to be honest with you, I'd have much less of a problem if it was just a straight up hotel, and I think there'd probably be less noise complaints too with the conflicting uses. So I think this is just an area where I'm struggling with the existing zoning category not really mapping onto our vision for what we see as transition, because we haven't really mapped out the specifics yet. So that's just my perspective.
Further discussion? I appreciate that. For my part, I'm here for the housing at this juncture, and so I'm going to be voting yes, but eager to hear what we get at second reading. Further discussion? All in favor? All opposed? It is approved. C2, an ordinance to amend Chapter 55 zoning rezoning of .28 acres from R1D single-family dwelling district to R2A two-family dwelling district 225 and 235 South Wagner Road. Moved by Councilmember Cornell, second by Councilmember Iyer. Discussion, please, of C2. Councilmember Dish.
So this is an Ann Arbor Community Land Trust project, and they are using a state housing tax incentive. The property tax increment over what these properties are generating now will be considerable when that comes in. So Planning Commission considered the following points and made the following judgments. The rezoning of this, the rezoning of the parcels is necessary because without it, a duplex cannot be built on each parcel. The zoning is appropriate for the site because it is foreseen by the comprehensive land use plan. It is consistent with adjacent uses, and it will have minimal impact on its neighbors. What is projected for this project is that each of the duplexes will be of a modest size, a little over 1,100 square feet, and one of the units will be 3 bedrooms and the other will be 2 bedrooms on each of the properties. So this project is advantageous for city goals of creating infill housing that provides new housing opportunity that's consistent with the surrounding housing. And this particular location will meet the convenience and service requirements of potential users because it is well located near transit, commercial services, and the recreational amenity of the Dolph Nature Area. So that was the reason for Planning Commission's recommendation that council approve this rezoning. And I look forward to hearing your views.
Further discussion? All in favor? All opposed? It is approved. C3, an ordinance to amend the zoning map of Chapter 55, Unified Development Code, rezoning of 1.2 acres from R4C multifamily dwelling district to R4E multifamily dwelling with conditions near North 700 North Main Street. Moved by Councilmember Dish, seconded by Councilmember Malik. Discussion, please, of C3. Councilmember Dish.
So this one had a previously, approved, it's okay, site plan for 21 townhomes that were projected to be marketed at $1 million apiece, and decided that the climate was shifting and decided instead to build 64 one-bedroom apartments between about 480 and 800 square feet. These will be apartments, so rental dwellings, and they'll be sitting partially on top of parking. How many parking spaces, you ask? 64 units and 60 parking spaces, so not even a 1-to-1 ratio. This is an eminently walkable site, it is, as the mayor mentioned, it is zoning with conditions, and the condition is that the maximum height will be limited to 75 feet because in R4E, there is no height cap. And so the 75-foot limitation that is voluntarily offered is meant to reconcile or blend this building in with the surrounding contexts. So once again, considering the points that Planning Commission needs to consider, this rezoning is necessary to achieve the density, which is, it is not just density, it's also diversity, because this will bring modestly sized apartments instead of townhomes that are relatively at the upper end of the market. The rezoning, the height limit keeps the project in a scale that's compatible with the surrounding buildings. And the rezoning, as I mentioned, significantly increases density and will be advantageous to the city in that respect. Walkable site, many services, many amenities. One of the very good questions that one of the planning commissioners raised, Commissioner Mills, is what happens to this rezoning with conditions when we come to implement the comprehensive plan? And Ms. DeLeo said that, well, we can choose to keep the R4E with conditions or not keep them if we think it's better not to keep them. And so the idea is not that we would leave it R4E, but that we could zone it transition and keep the height limit, which would be fine. So if we decided that transition should be 65 feet, this building would be non-conforming, but it would be allowed to keep its 75-foot max. So if that might have been too weedy and not very well done. So if you have any questions, but otherwise, I personally would welcome this project in Ward 1 where it is planned for. Yeah.
Further discussion? All in favor? All opposed? It's approved. C2, an ordinance to amend sections 5.18 and 5.37 of Chapter 55, Unified Development Code of Title 5 of the Code of the City of Arbor, exception to height limits. Moved by Councilmember Dish, second by Councilmember Malik. Discussion, please, of C4. Councilmember Briggs.
If possible, I would love to hear and ask OSI staff, I suspect, a question around this. The question came up during public comment around was this a retreat from our sort of commitment to zero code, and would that be really a more appropriate basis for the premium in this case, or the height increase? So if OSI staff or is available to answer that question, or if planning staff wants to field it, that's fine too.
I think we just have Ms. DeLeo. I don't mean to say just Ms. DeLeo. Good Lord.
I was going to say...
Yes, please forgive.
I am not sure if my colleagues from the OSI are on the call or not. I can say that the Ordinance Revisions Committee and the Planning Commission did discuss a wide variety of amendments that could be made to this section, which is exceptions to height limits. We offer them for two reasons. What we define as a sustainable development and what we define as an affordable development. We did go back and forth, up and down and around, and while there is certainly value into more robust amendments, the Ordinance Revisions Committee and Planning Commission wanted to keep the amendments very focused and very small, waiting for how the larger picture and implementing the comprehensive plan would play out. They didn't, it's not that they did not support it, but they wanted to make the smallest change as quickly as possible and put off any more robust discussion until it can be fully vetted, fully analyzed, and the best amendment and the best incentive could be developed.
Councilman, I think you still have the floor, Councilmember.
I'm reflecting. Continue on.
You have a minute to reflect, but perhaps we'll move on. Councilmember Dish.
Yeah, this is a really good discussion. So I was thinking you were going to give background because I knew that you knew it, but I want to give just a little bit more background to this. The reason why this is before us right now, there's more work to do on this. Council has requested the Planning Commission consider limits on the height exemptions in the residential districts, and this is not meant to speak to that. This is meant to speak to two concerns that have arisen in the height exception context. And one is the difficulty of providing solar coverage on infill projects that have limited roof space once you've finished putting all of the HVAC up there that you have to put up there. And the other is the perceived, and I think empirically demonstrable, lack of comparability between the cost of the affordability exception, the cost of achieving that, providing 15% of your units at an affordable rate or paying in lieu, versus the old version of the sustainability exception. So this is a desire to beef up the sustainability exception. And the question of why not to go with the state zero code rather than what this goes for is not, it was not framed for us as a backing off of net zero. It was framed for us as a preference to have solar panels in the city of Ann Arbor on buildings. The zero code allows you to meet those requirements, all or in part by off-site offsets. And the desire here is to produce more green infrastructure, actual physical infrastructure in the city. And so this is how Dr. Stultz explained at the meeting to us, this change was, this was framed this way. And so there is the desire for solar panels and then the ability to do a payment in lieu on those, just as we allow a payment in lieu on the affordable housing, because sometimes roof space isn't going to allow you to hit 60%. And since we want infill housing and we want tall, skinny buildings, that is important flexibility. So if that's helpful, those were considerations that came up in our discussion.
Further discussion? Councilmember Malik.
I have a question, as staff or maybe even Councilmember Dish might know, but for the payment in lieu of, on the solar aspect, where does the payment go? Is there a fund currently for the payment in lieu for the solar portion?
Councilmember, I can address that. The Office of Sustainability is working on a policy, and it will be on your agenda in 1 month's time when this, should this come back at second reading. I believe that a new fund is to be created, is my best understanding at this moment. But there will be a companion piece to this, establishing the rate and establishing where it goes and what the funds may be used for and the administration of that.
Thank you very much.
Further discussion? All in favor? All opposed? It is approved. DC1, resolution to approve the purchase of solar voltaic modules from Global Solar Center LLC, DBA Samba Energy, amount of $914,865. Moved by Councilmember Cornell, seconded by Councilmember Berdina. Discussion, please, of DC1. I believe we have an introduction.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, council members. With this resolution, the Sustainable Energy Utility is preparing to purchase about $850,000 worth of solar panels to deploy solar energy across our community. And this is a huge milestone for us. As you know, we've purchased equipment already for the Bryant neighborhood pilot installations, which are fully grant funded and are already being deployed on dozens of homes in the Bryant neighborhood. But this is our first purchase for installations outside of Bryant and outside of the grant funding. And so with this purchase, we're saying we're in. Once we buy these panels, we've got to install them, right, and put them to use. And this is made possible because last month, council approved funding and a budget for the SEU that we will get on July 1st. So I want to share a little bit about the timing of this because it may seem odd that we are purchasing now quite urgently for panels that we intend to deploy in 2028. Many folks may be aware that the federal tax credits for residential solar installations expired at the end of 2025, but tax credits for commercial installations, which apply to us as a non-residential owner of the systems, are still available for a very short while and under certain complicated tax considerations. I won't bore you with all the details, but the key is this, and that is if we spend 5% of the cost of future installations before July 4th of this year, then we will demonstrate for tax purposes that we have begun construction, which then means we have several years in which to complete that construction and still be eligible for the tax credits. So if you've heard about safe harboring solar equipment, that's what we're doing here. And today's purchase, if approved and executed, will allow our future installations to be tax credit eligible. We estimate this will save us about $3 million, which we will pass along in the form of lower rates, making solar energy more affordable for everybody who wants it. Any questions?
Pardon me? Mr. Mahoney.
Ms. Leslie, could you address the solution we found for storage of where the panels will be?
Yes, so the resolution before you does include some funding for off-site storage. So while we are standing up local storage, we have a month-to-month ability to have off-site storage of the panels, although we will own them while they are stored off-site and protected by insurance from the third-party storer. However, we do intend to store these panels long-term at the Wheeler Service Center, and we've been working with our partners there to figure out a plan for it. This is about 9 truckloads worth of solar. It is a lot of panels, but we'll bring them here into our community and keep them safe till we get them up on rooftops.
Councilmember Malik.
9 truckloads of solar. That sounds great. My question is related to the $3 million you are estimating for the federal tax credit. On those tax credits, it's generally my understanding it's about 30%. I assume that's probably still the case. So this item tonight is approximately $1 million, if you round up, of which 30%, of course, would be about $300,000. So can you just explain kind of where we get from $1 million tonight to $3 million in tax credits in the future?
Yes. So the tax credits, the 30% is on the total cost of the installation, whereas today we're just purchasing 5 or 10% of the value of that installation in the form of the solar panels. So we'll spend, let's say, $1 million-ish on solar panels right now. If that's 10% of the cost of the total installation, that means when we actually put these in, all the labor and all of the remaining parts of the system, those might be $10 million worth of installations, and then you get your 30% credit on that, which is your $3 million.
Great, thank you.
Yeah.
Further
Good ROI.
Further discussion? I just want to express buckets of gratitude to staff for keeping an eye out on this purchase condition. Obviously, the SEU is up and running, and we are just so excited that the Bryant neighborhood is the first place where we have solar panels and batteries installed. Over the next, this summer, going to hopefully have about 100 homes with SEU electricity. That will expand to 1,000 homes over the next year, the next year, the next year, and these are the panels that are going to do it. They'll be in our hands, ready to install, and I'm just, again, grateful to you, Director Levensky, and the rest of the OSI staff, and indeed staff up and down the line for helping us make it happen. So thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Further discussion? All in favor? All opposed? It is approved. DC2, resolution to order election to determine ballot question for charter amendment to modify the method for counting signatures of nomination petitions. Moved by Councilmember Cornell, seconded by Councilmember Iyer. Discussion, please, of DC2. Councilmember Redina.
Thank you, Mayor. I can, maybe with Council's acquiescence, I'll speak to both of these briefly, as we have two in a row coming up. These are both potential charter amendments coming to us thanks to the recommendations of our clerk's office, things that they have noticed over the years, and things that would bring us closer in line with state standards. So the first that we're on right now would modify the method for counting signatures for nomination. This is something currently our current charter would have it so that anytime a person signs multiple signature or multiple petitions for a single office, those signatures would not count on any of the petitions for any of the candidates. That's not necessarily in line with state standards and state expectations, which would credit the signature to the person who collected it first, and I think would, in my view at least, hew more to voter intent of wanting to put someone on the ballot. This will ultimately require, obviously, the onus will be on candidates to communicate these expectations out to voters. I think a lot of voters don't know that they can't sign multiple petitions. They're just trying to put people on the ballot and allow them to get to the election. So this would one, try to make that change so that folks can still get at least one person on the ballot rather than having their signatures disqualified, but would also put the onus on the candidates to communicate that if they've already signed a petition, they should not sign another one. And so that would bring us more in line. And then the second modifies the terms of office. It would extend it out to the first Monday in December, the first Monday following the election, again, in line with state standards and in large part recommendation coming from clerks across the state to make sure that elections are certified before we actually swear people in. So these are both changes to improve our elections here locally and also bring us more in line with state expectations and standards.
Further discussion? Roll call vote, please, starting with Councilmember Dish.
Councilmember Dish?
I'm sorry. This is just the one, DC2.
Yes. Councilmember Harrison?
Yes.
Councilmember Watson is absent. Councilmember Malik?
Yes.
Councilmember Redina?
Yes.
Councilmember Ghazi Edwin?
Yes.
Mayor Taylor?
Yes.
Councilmember Iyer?
Yes.
Councilmember Ackman?
Yes.
Councilmember Briggs?
Yes.
Councilmember Cornell?
Yes.
10 in the affirmative.
It passes. DC3, resolution to order election and to determine ballot question for charter amendment to modify the terms of office. Moved by Councilmember Cornell, seconded by Councilmember Malik. Discussion, please, of DC3. Roll call vote, please, starting with Councilmember Dish.
Councilmember Dish?
Yes.
Councilmember Harrison?
Yes.
Councilmember Watson is absent. Councilmember Malik?
Yes.
Councilmember Redina?
Yes.
Councilmember Ghazi Edwin?
Yes.
Mayor Taylor?
Yes.
Councilmember Iyer?
Yes.
Councilmember Ackman?
Yes.
Councilmember Briggs?
Yes.
Councilmember Cornell?
Yes.
10 in the affirmative.
It's approved. DC4, resolution directing the city administrator to develop a comprehensive anti-displacement plan for the city of Ann Arbor. Moved by Councilmember Harrison, seconded by Councilmember Ghazi Edwin. Discussion, please, of DC4. Councilmember Harrison.
Thank you, Mayor. So I want to first thank those that came tonight to comment about this resolution. Some that seem to both support it and not support it. But I want to be clear about where I'm coming from. First of all, I've been working on this and researching since the beginning of the year. I am a strong supporter of housing growth in this city. I have consistently voted for and will continue to vote for new housing at all income levels. I want a city where people from every background can live. This includes low-income residents, working families, seniors, people with disabilities, and people in supportive and group living settings can live here. This is what I understand true YIMBYism to mean. Yes to housing and yes to staying. I've heard directly from renters and homeowners who are currently experiencing the pressures of displacement and who are worried about their ability to remain in this community. I also want to ground this in the lived history of this city. As a lifelong Black resident of Ann Arbor, I've watched our Black population decline over time. We saw it in the 4th Ward in Carytown, where Black families and businesses that were part of this community for generations were pushed out. We saw it again when public housing units were closed for repairs and residents did not return. That history is why displacement is not abstract. We must ensure long-term residents and legacy communities can stay. The Comprehensive Land Use Plan is an important step forward, advancing housing production and the long-term growth this city needs. It is important to note that housing supply and anti-displacement supports are not competing strategies. They are complementary strategies. The Comprehensive Land Use Plan addresses the supply side, building enough housing, including denser and more affordable housing for current and future residents. This resolution addresses the support side, making sure current residents and future residents who run into hardship have a coordinated set of resources to help them stay. We need both. A city can add housing supply and still lose residents to rising costs of living, deferred repairs, or a sudden hardship if there is no system in place to help them weather it. We already have important tools: affordable housing incentives, inclusionary zoning, home repair programs. Peer cities use these same tools along with additional strategies to address displacement more directly. But here, these efforts are not yet organized into a coordinated system that identifies displacement risk early and aligns responses across housing and neighborhood stability. That is what this resolution establishes. It directs the city administrator to return within 90 days with a framework to inventory existing tools, identify gaps, and develop a coordinated approach. Growth and stability have to be designed together. Thank you.
Further discussion? Councilmember Cornell.
Thank you, and thank you, Councilmember Harrison. I agree with everything that you said wholeheartedly, and I think it's obvious my interest in making sure we have gentle density and sustainable growth is important. I think one thing that I'm struggling with this is that we have asked Planning Commission to take its time and to direct how the land use plan will be implemented and what that means for the city. We've heard it brought up several times this evening, the context of short-term rentals, for instance. And so I think what I'm really struggling with is the anti-displacement plan is already part of the land use plan that was already prescribed in that plan that we passed. And so taking this as sort of like a piecemeal part of implementation just feels very strange to me. I worry about the holistic consideration that Planning Commission is doing, and quite frankly, Council directing how that's supposed to work when we have a body that is comprised of experts in this space, people who have lived with the comprehensive land use plan in detail. I really worry about the implications of that we may not be considering, and if we started to pull pieces off of the plan to start directing out of concert with the other moving pieces, I don't know what the negative consequences of that might be. So I'm really unsure about this, and it's it's firmly rooted in us wanting to move in, I think, the same and right and good direction, but how we do that without messing things up that are already being debated and thought about very carefully.
Further, Councilmember Dish.
I do not want the floor yet, but I wanted to there was a staff introduction.
Oh, mercy. Yes.
And that is perhaps responsive to some of the things you raised. Yeah.
I think you'd characterize that as a point of order.
Is that?
Sure. Yes, staff introduction. Thank you for the reminder. Mr. Mahoney.
Thank you, Mayor.
Sorry.
In this instance, Councilmember Dish, I'll ask you to cite your question for me. If you can, I'll. Okay. I have it here if you.
We don't get much email on council days. Yes, so I asked if it would be possible to assess which, if any, aspects of the research and analysis requested in this resolution might be added to or belong to the scope of work to implement the comprehensive land use plan. And whether we could get a rough assessment of the additional resources, time and staffing and money that would be necessary to complete the report. Those were my two main questions.
Councilmember Dish, to answer your question would require me having the 90 days or whatever the period of time is to be able to determine it. I would not prejudge that this piece of work could or could not be done by the consultant we're hiring to work on the comp plan. I would want to have an interview process associated with the RFP process around the consultant that does the displacement work to hear how they would go about it. And that would then put me in position to determine which staff set would be appropriate to work with that person or persons in doing the work. With regards to the fiscal aspect, we don't really have any idea what someone charges to do this kind of work. That's why you do the RFP process. And so most likely we would be needing to come back and ask for an appropriation to cover it. But rather than sort of putting certain staffs on the spot and just saying this is going to be your work, I personally want to interview the consultants in our office and determine the best path forward. So I can't answer that tonight, but we would come back with it within the time frame that we're given to work on it.
Further discussion? Councilmember Briggs.
Yeah, we heard a bit in public comment tonight, some claims that I think are seem to suggest, though I know these folks are, maybe a lack of familiarity with the comprehensive land use planning process and what's the content in the plan. So, they have. There was one comment that suggested this was a cynical act of political opportunism, which I think is certainly not fair to Councilmember Harrison's intent around this, as she stated in her opening comments. It's also not accurate to suggest that we did not engage in a really meaningful way around the concept of displacement throughout the entire comprehensive land use planning process. Not only is it mentioned 22 times within our comprehensive land use plan, it is stated as a goal to support all residents in accessing quality housing and mitigate displacement, and there are strategies that are integrated within the plan itself. And so, I think to Councilmember Cornell's point about, this is, a plan is, there are steps that come next, right? Zoning is part of this. There's implementation of other aspects of that, including some of the pieces that are wrapped up within this existing resolution that we're considering tonight. So just in relationship to the comments that were brought up tonight, I think we very seriously engaged with this, and it is reflected very deeply in the plan that we adopted.
For Councilmember Dish, then Medina.
Yeah, I also wanted to respond to some of those things that were said. Scarcity is pushing up the cost of older, modest homes in this city and in many others. Scarcity has accelerated rents, and scarcity is a cause of displacement. If you are lucky enough to have been living in a modest home for a while, so it was an affordable entry-level home for you, it is now an older home. And you face increased costs that make it harder for you to weatherize and make the necessary upgrades to age in place, if that's what you choose to do. That's another facet of displacement. And the way I see this resolution, particularly as a communication that we received, but I don't think was public, from Councilmember Harrison earlier, I see this resolution, like the comprehensive plan, land use plan, as being responsive to a nationwide crisis in housing supply. The comprehensive land use plan, as you just said, Councilmember Briggs, is concerned with displacement throughout. There is a disagreement in this community over the relationship of pro-housing market rate strategies to mitigating displacement. But a disagreement over those strategies does not mean that we are cynical or we have only recently come to a concern with displacement. This has been a long-standing argument. And frankly, the city has pursued two strategies for addressing displacement. One is the creation of income-qualified affordable housing through the use of the Affordable Housing Millage, the Affordable Housing Fund, which is built through payments from private developers and through the issuing of bonds, both by the city and by the Housing Commission. The proof of the validity of that strategy is visible on our streets. You can go to 121 East Catherine and see the first building that was created from the Affordable Housing Millage. You will be able to see at 350 South 5th, 330 apartments. That ground will be broken on those, I believe, as soon as the fall. And so those are two projects, both in the heart of the city, that are supported by Ann Arbor tax dollars. And as for the market strategy, well, guess what? New supply is increasing and rents are coming down for units in buildings that were built 1 or 2 decades ago. According to RealPage Analytics, Ann Arbor saw a 6% decrease in rent, especially in those for units located in those older properties. This is exactly what happens when housing supply increases over time. And that is what the club asks to continue. So I believe that these two resolutions the resolution works with the club, and yes, well, that's enough.
Councilmember Medina.
Thank you, Mayor. I can be very brief because Councilmember Dish just highlighted a point that I hoped to raise. I was disappointed during public comment to hear some folks who have been really billing themselves almost as experts on the plan in their opposition to it, to their neighbors and to members of the community, suggest that displacement is suddenly something new that we're talking about when, as Councilmember Briggs pointed out, it's not only goal number 2, but also part of goal number 7. And this is absolutely something that has been ingrained in the plan all along, but also simply to highlight that displacement is happening now. Scarcity, as Councilmember Dish pointed out, is a cause of displacement in our community. The fact that folks cannot afford to find affordable homes here is causing them to move away. The fact that as children grow up, they can't afford to stay here near their parents. As seniors age, they can't afford to stay in place based on on their fixed incomes, all of those cause displacement. And so, a desire to enshrine our city in amber and have no change and no growth and no new housing does not solve this problem. It makes it significantly worse. And so, I'm going to support this tonight because I think that these things go hand in hand. Obviously, as we continue to make changes to make our city more affordable, to make housing more abundant, we also want to make sure that we are paying attention to vulnerable communities and making sure that those who are living in affordable housing can continue to live here, and those who have housing that they are currently living in can afford to stay. And so I'm going to support this evening, but I think it is certainly telling, based on some of the voices who came to speak in opposition to this tonight, what their real goal has been all along. And frankly, it's disappointing that they didn't know that this was in the plan when they've been telling their neighbors that they read it and we've been ignoring them.
Councilmember Gauzy-Edwin.
Thank you. I also want to keep my comments brief because I think we've kind of said a lot of the same things. I think that we've received public comments today, emails where people were misconstruing the messaging and the intent of the resolution and saying that this resolution is an admission of guilt, of that the club we're now admitting does or will result in displacing people, when in fact it's the opposite. Research shows that increasing density, like what the club does not automatically cause gentrification, and in many cases, increasing housing density reduces displacement pressure compared to not building housing at all, which, if we can remember, about 70 to 75% of our city is currently zoned for single family. So if we can just envision that means 70 to 75% of our city is built for houses, for boxes between 4 to 6 people, or however many people are in your family. And we have the amazing University of Michigan here, which is attracting more faculty and students every year. And we can't just build out into townships. That doesn't make sense. We have to build up. It's better for the environment. It's better for economic diversity. And it reduces displacement. And I just want to clarify that for the public. Thank you.
Councilmember Ackman.
I will also be brief. I appreciate what everybody has said, and I appreciate the spirit in which this resolution was brought forward, and I'm sorry for the really cynical comments made tonight. I will say, as I look through the comprehensive plan for about the 500th time, displacement, providing support to mitigate against displacement is mentioned a few times, along with a lot of other goals and strategies in here. And I think that it's important, but I also think that there are other things in here that are very important, like some of the goals and strategies include creating like a universal design pattern to ease, the development of maybe more affordable forms of housing that we want, purchasing existing housing to keep it affordable, which was on the agenda tonight. We actually did that. And so, like Councilmember Cornell, and because of other votes that have happened with this body, I am reluctant to kind of decide which order and how to tackle these things as Planning Commission contemplates zoning changes, because as has been brought up numerous times, scarcity is driving displacement as well, and I want to see those zoning changes move forward expeditiously, and so for that reason I think I'm going to decline to support this tonight. Thank you.
Further discussion? For my part, I'm going to be voting in favor of the resolution tonight. I think that this is it supplements the work that's being done by Planning Commission. It supplements the work called for by the Comprehensive Land Use Plan. I agree that we do have as we all acknowledge, certainly here at this body and certainly throughout the community, there is a housing crisis. It's my hope that the work that will be done here will help people in the here and now. It's also, I believe, it's important for us to consider whether or not there can be interim measures taken. Right now, the Comprehensive Land Use Plan is being reflected upon, and they're working on action items and their work plan. I'm interested in exploring and hearing from the Planning Commission, like whether there are interim rezonings that can be effective, which will accelerate housing in areas where it can be best borne. That would help us alleviate some of the housing pressure that we currently suffer that does lead to displacement, that does reduce affordability by taking those measures where we can do so opportunistically and effectively, even before the plan as a whole is implemented, seems to me to be a path well worth exploring and could easily be effective in the short, medium term. But for this evening, and with respect to this resolution, again, I'm excited about a better understanding of the services and opportunities that it will show to us, and look forward to supporting it. Further decision, thank you. Further discussion. Councilmember Cornell.
I don't know if this is a question for you, Mr. Dohoney, or perhaps Councilmember Dish, but watching the last riveting Planning Commission meeting and hearing so much conversation around implementing the plan piecemeal and that being 100% not what staff wanted us to do, I guess if the reassurance that I'm hearing is that Planning Commission would not see this as would see this as a complementary step to what they're already doing, then I feel like I would support this. I just think it's really important for us when we're talking about doing things piecemeal and exploring things as they come along. We spent a lot of time on this plan, and displacement is a huge part of this plan, as we've all acknowledged. And so I continue to struggle with it. That's all. And thanks for letting me have another word after you.
Oh.
Councilmember Cornell, you will recall when the budget was presented and reference was made to the fact that we were going to be bringing on a consultant to work on the comp plan. I used the term pay-go. We are going to pay as we go as it relates to using consultative services. What is unknown tonight is exactly how much of a lift is it for a consultant to concentrate on the elements of the resolution that Councilmember Harrison has brought forth. And therefore, we need to understand that better to determine, is it work that the consultant we envision can do within the money allocated, or does it require a separate consultant with dedicated money just to focus on that? And maybe the conclusion will be that if that goes a little faster than the rest, that might be helpful. We don't know yet. So that's why I answered in the way that I did. I can't speak for the Planning Commission. Thankfully, you don't ask me to go to those meetings. So I'll defer to Councilmember Dish about that.
No, I think just the first one was a point of order.
I fervently hope that this would be a separate thing. And if I am understanding it correctly, it's about an inventory of services that are available and a desire to make those services more visible and more accessible to people. And that's not necessarily under the purview of the Planning Commission. So I think that the Planning Commission and I should be saying the Planning Department and the Planning Commission, it has no more room on the plate. We have enough bread on our plate, as the French say. So we can't, that wouldn't be okay. But I think if this can be a separate thing, I do see it as complementary. I understand that it could compete for resources, so maybe you can sell the air rights over my house, Mr. Dohoney, if they're useful.
Thank you, Councilmember Dish. Thank you, Mr. Dohoney. That was really helpful.
Further discussion? Roll call vote, please, starting with Councilmember Dish.
Councilmember Dish?
Yes.
Councilmember Harrison?
Yes.
Councilmember Watson, absent. Councilmember Malik?
Yes.
Councilmember Rodina?
Yes.
Councilmember Ghazi Edwin?
Yes.
Mayor Taylor?
Yes.
Councilmember Iyer?
Yes.
Councilmember Ackman?
No.
Councilmember Briggs?
Yes.
Councilmember Cornell?
Yes.
9 in the affirmative.
It's approved. DS1, resolution to approve the 3400 Dexter Road annexation, 4.308 acres, 3400 Dexter Road, moved by Councilmember Cornell, seconded by Councilmember Dish. Discussion, please, of DS1. All in favor? All opposed? It's approved. DS2, resolution to vacate John Street right-of-way, approve release of a utility easement, and approve a utilities transfer agreement with the Board of Regents of the University of Michigan. Moved by Councilmember Briggs, second by Councilmember Cornell. Discussion, please, of DS2. Councilmember Briggs.
Yeah, I'd just like to thank Mr. Wilhelm for reaching out and for answering some questions that I had earlier today. I had just wanted to confirm, Mr. Rain had came before us tonight, and it's okay. and spoke in front of Planning Commission that non-motorized access would continue through the site because there wasn't a design in front of Planning Commission when this was considered. I just wanted to make sure that this wasn't theoretical. It sounds like city staff has seen designs, and indeed there is mid-block access that will continue for non-motorized access because that's a very large block and would really disrupt our network if that weren't maintained. But I believe that I feel comfortable supporting this request tonight.
Further discussion? All in favor? All opposed? It's approved with 10 council members present, all voting in the affirmative, thus satisfying the 8-vote requirement. Thank you. Do we have the pleasure of a closed session today?
Yes, Mayor Taylor, I would like to request closed session under MCL 15.268(1H to discuss privileged and confidential memos sent to council on April 2, 2026 and June 8, 2026.
May I have a motion, please, to go into closed session on that basis? Moved by Councilmember Cornell, seconded by Councilmember Dish. Discussion. Roll call vote, please, starting with Councilmember Dish.
Councilmember Dish?
Yes.
Councilmember Harrison?
Yes.
Councilmember Watson, absent. Councilmember Malik?
Yes.
Councilmember Rodina?
Yes.
Councilmember Ghazi Edwin?
Yes.
Mayor Taylor?
Yes.
Councilmember Iyer?
Yes.
Councilmember Ackman?
Yep.
Councilmember Briggs?
Yes.
Councilmember Cornell?
Yes.
Closed session, it's like Christmas in June. We're in closed session. Councilmember Ackman, second by Councilmember Iyer. Discussion. All in favor? Opposed? We are back in open session. We have before us the clerk's report of communications, petitions, and referrals. May I have a motion, please, to approve the clerk's report. I've got food in my mouth. Moved by Councilmember Cornell, second by Councilmember Briggs. Discussion. All in favor? Opposed? It's approved. Do we have communications today from our city attorney?
I'd just like to draw your attention to E3 on the communications from the clerk. Governor's approval of the millages. That's it. Thank you.
Wow. Thank you. In the absence of public comment overflow, may I have a motion to adjourn? Please move by Councilmember Gaziedman, second by Councilmember Radina. Discussion. All in favor? All opposed? We're adjourned.